Chris here, back with another tablet review. So this time around it is Chuwi's latest, which is the Hi9 Pro. So this is one of those MediaTek Helio X20 tablets. I've looked at a few now. The chipset is okay. It does have a lot of features like GPS, FM radio, dual SIM LTE, but the GPU it's paired up with, the old Mali T880, isn't exactly the fastest. But as you see in this review, that you can still play games as long as you're on the lower settings with demanding titles like PUBG. So it has an 8 megapixel camera on the rear of it, 5 up front. It even has an earpiece and could be used as a massive 8.4 inch mobile phone. So the screen resolution is 2560 by 1600. It's a fully laminated IPS panel, so it should look very decent, and the battery capacity is a 5000 milliamp hours. And it even has a Type-C port on it. So really, the only thing this tablet is missing to me is micro HDMI out, or at least HDMI out via the Type-C port, which it doesn't unfortunately support.
So let's take a look at what we get in the box. The tablet there, obviously, in a sleeve. We'll have a look at that in just a minute. We've got a little pouch in here, and this will have your warranty, your guarantee cards, a little quality inspection certificate thing there, and this is in both Chinese by the looks of it, and English as well. That's just all your specs, and it's also showing you that SIM tray slot. So it's either a micro SD card nano SIM or 2 nano SIMs, just like the Helio X20 mobile phones I've reviewed. Floating around in the box, of course, is the SIM tray tool, which I'm going to need. And then in the side pouch here, we get a black Type-C cable. Really good to see it's using Type-C, by the way, and not micro USB. And then our tiny little charger here, which is rated to 5 volts 2 amps. So this does not support MediaTek's Pump Express, this tablet, even though the chipset does. So it weighs 375 grams and is around about 9.35 millimeters at the thickest point. So the Hi9 Pro has this metal alloy on the rear, but the tops and bottom are made out of plastic. That's for the wireless antennas, of course, and then the LTE antennas. So along the bottom you'll find just a single mono speaker here. Now if this is anything like the Hi8 or the Hi9 speakers, this is going to be pretty bad and perhaps the biggest con of this tablet. So our rear camera here is a Samsung 8 megapixel one autofocus, and you'll see up the top here we've got the SIM tray. I just wanted to pull that out just to show you that it is actually made out of metal. I thought it might have been one of those really cheap plastic ones, so good to see they didn't resort to plastic here. The same goes for the buttons. Again, made out of metal. I thought they might have been plastic considering the price of this tablet. And there's a tiny little hole there that you probably can't actually make out. It's a little hard to get on camera. And what that is, to me, it looks like a reset button, perhaps. Right on the top, you'll find a 3.5mm headphone jack with microphone support, then the Type-C port for data and charging. It's only USB 2 spec. Here you can see something we don't normally get on an 8.4 inch tablet, and that is an earpiece. So yes, it can be used as a phone. It has a proximity sensor and perhaps even an ambient light sensor. I hope it does. And there's a camera there as well, which is a 5 megapixel one. And you're probably wondering where that microphone is for calls and video. It's right here, just a tiny little hole there. So overall, for the price, the build quality is actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I expected to see plastic buttons at least, and they've got the texture on that button too, painted it red just to give it, I don't know, a bit of a gamer look perhaps. And there is no, well, perhaps a tiny little bit of flex there in the case, but I can't hear any creaks or anything. So overall, the build is very decent. So it does come with a pre-applied screen protector, you can see, but normally the factory gets this right the first time and they put them on really well, but you can see here there's a lot of air bubbles, so I will probably just have to, yeah, look at that. That's an absolute mess. I'm just going to have to go with no screen protector. So first glimpse at the screen. Yes, the left and right bezels do look a bit larger than their press images. We're getting a lot of this, aren't we, from people from China, companies from China that just tend to tweak those images to make bezels look a little slimmer. I wish they would stop doing that. So we've got all your languages on there that you normally get. This is stock Android 8, which is great. And it also uses Google's Gboard, which is great too. So no funny custom keyboard here. So here we go in Android. It's stock Android, of course. Now I just wanted to update you that yes, there is a haptic feedback motor in there. You get a very slight vibration. It's not a lot, but it's better than nothing. I just noticed it when I was typing with the keyboard to set up my Google account and everything. So it is running, you can see, stock Android as mentioned, and those are the pre-installed apps. So it is a very light ROM, and you'll see that we've also got right there FM radio. You just need to connect up a headset that acts as the antenna, and then you're ready to go with that. Now, you don't actually get that on a lot of tablets, just like GPS 2, which is really good to have on this. So you get 25.6 gigabytes free on this 32 gigabytes of storage, but do remember that you can at least add a micro SD card to this and expand upon that storage. Now it is running Android 8.0, not 8.1 unfortunately, and the security patch level is from June the 5th. So let's take a detailed look now at this display. I think it's really good considering the price of this tablet. It does have pretty decent color reproduction. Now the gamma's 2.1, and that's not far off from 2.2, so the gamma's almost spot on, not bad at all. Maximum brightness is where it's lacking, I feel a little here. It comes out at 250 lux. For a fully laminated display, that's fine indoors as you can see now, but outdoors, really, I would like to see a lot more brightness there. So they have toned that down with this panel. Another thing to note is that the DPI, which is the scaling in Android here, is set to 320, which you normally see on mobile phones. And I feel for the 8.4 inches and the resolution, that's good for me personally, but for some people that may not have the best eyesight, you may find text a little small, and you probably noticed that already when I showed you the settings and things at just how small the text is going to be. A lot of manufacturers will end up setting this to normally around about 480 for the DPI here, but overall it is a nice screen, fully laminated, so you're not going to have that ugly gap. High resolution, but that high resolution does mean I am seeing a little bit of lag and stutter here and there. I do feel that this chipset is better suited to just 1080p or 1200p. The glass they've used on the display as well is 2.5D, so it has those nice rounded edges here. And I don't know whether it's Dragon Tail or Gorilla Glass. It did come with a pre-applied screen protector, so I would probably leave that on there if of course it doesn't have all the bubbles underneath. So sensors, very basic here. We've just got an accelerometer and then a proximity sensor for when you use it as a large mobile phone. The display will also dim down, very dim as you can see now, and this is going to be good for late time use, so thumbs up to Chuwi for setting it nice and low. A lot of manufacturers still keep the lowest setting far too high. Now before I go through my typical benchmarks, I wanted to talk about the performance of it. I think this chipset is really struggling with the 2560 by 1600 resolution. So my website here does have a lot of images, you could say it's rather heavy, and the touch response is good. No problems with that. I haven't had any issues with touch response. You just notice animation lag. Overall, the tablet just feels a little on the laggy side, a little slow, and you can probably see it just when you go through things, even just basic multitasking. Like right now, I'm trying to close down on apps just to keep things a little bit fluid, but even when we're just going through here and having a look at your different applications and things, you just notice that now and then it's just not as fluid as it could be, and this is especially noticeable going from, say, my Xiaomi Mi Pad 4 and then to this tablet. It's just not quite as good. So YouTube, Netflix, that actually works. I tested it out, but it's only standard definition because it's Widevine level 1. And I did test out YouTube. So YouTube, that app of course is on here. That comes with the ROM. And you get up to 1440p. Now streaming is fluid. It's going to have no problems with that. It's going to keep up with everything there. So I'll just go to one of my videos and show you. And you can see now, see how things just seem a little bit slow when they load through. And for some reason I have a Spanish ad over my English video. It's because I'm in Spain, of course. But this currently is in 1440p. And it does play these videos really quite fluid. And overall looks nice. Now those stutters come a little bit more obvious when you start to do, for example, multitasking or split screen, which I'm running at the moment. So since Android 7, we've got split screen, which is really great. You can look at your emails, look at a website, and still be watching, for example, one of my videos, which I'm doing, still in 4040p. And you'll notice that now when you go through the apps here, see this noticeable stutter, this lag. It's just a little slow there and not the quickest. So I will go back into Chrome, which should still be open here. And you'll see that the scrolling, that is okay. So you can read this, but the performance has degraded somewhat, of course, running two things at once. Alright, so I did make a phone call on this, And it's as expected. I didn't expect it was going to be amazing quality. So the earpiece at the top, I would say, is not really loud enough. It tends to vibrate, distort at the minimum. So not great quality, but again, it's kind of good to have this in here. And at this price point, I feel it's okay. And I tested out the speakerphone. It's not brilliant either, but I'll give you a sample now of that rear speaker. Okay, I must admit, it doesn't actually sound as bad as I thought it would. I was prejudging there, wasn't I? You just assume it's going to be bad because it normally is. It's not an amazing speaker, but it does have a little bit of bass, and the volume I would rate as being okay. I feel it's sufficient, again, looking at the price of this tablet. Now, as I pointed out, so it's Widevine level 3 that it supports, and this is standard definition Netflix. So on Play Store, you can install Netflix. I've already done that, but it's just the standard definition. That's all you're going to get. Now, the tablet does support Project Treble, but seamless updates, they're not supported. There's no access to partition slots A and B. And let's be honest here, it's probably going to be stuck on Android 8.0 forever. I don't ever see this getting Android P, Android 9. And GPS, it works okay. It doesn't lock onto every single satellite out there. MediaTek, for me, have never had the best GPS. Qualcomm just do it way better. Accuracy hovers around 4 to 5 meters. Your mobile phone will probably be more accurate, and this does not support a hardware compass. Moving on now to the connectivity. So the 4G speeds tested here, really good. No problems with the signal strength. I think it was one of these ones I first tested out. It was the Audio Cube X1, I think was one of them. They had really poor signal strength. Not happening here. It's perfectly fine. And the wireless range and speeds also good. So it's going to top out in my testing around about 220 megabits per second. So this one I was expecting. Internal storage speeds, 67 megabytes per second sequential and 45 writes. Quite slow. This is not eMMC 5.1 spec. This is only eMMC 4.5.1. And at the smaller 32 gigabytes, they always tend to be quite slow, but this is one of the slower ones. The Antutu score, this is on par with other Helio X20 devices I have reviewed, both phones and tablets, so close to 100,000 points here. But synthetic benchmarks are not everything. As I've pointed out, it tends to struggle, this chipset, pushing the 2560 by 1600 resolution. eBooks, they look good on the screen because it is very sharp, and if you're just reading eBooks, then your battery life is going to be a lot better. It's probably going to be around 6 to 7 hours as well. When I zoom right into the text, this gives you an idea of the kind of sharpness you're getting. It's very hard to actually make out pixels on this because of the resolution at 8.4 inches. And testing out a rather large PDF file, this one's about 35-40 megabytes. The performance is okay. You can see scrolling ahead. It's definitely not the fastest, and it will not compete with an iPad, no way. Those processors are much quicker there. You can see, you do see some lag. It is struggling a little bit at times, so if I just zoom into this, it's definitely not the best performance I have seen. Skipping ahead with some pages, a little while to catch up and then load in those files, you can see. So not amazing performance, but PDF files do look good on this high resolution screen. Now moving on to gaming, so I'm going to test out a very demanding title, which is PUBG. You're probably aware of it, and Fortnite's also going to be out soon for many devices, and this is going to have to run everything on the lowest settings, and that's all you can select. You can't even go with balance with PUBG. In fact, no, you can go with balance, sorry, but I do not recommend it. Go on the lowest settings just to keep that frame rate up. It's playable, as you'll see now, but it can get quite choppy at times. So most of the time, the game is really struggling to get 30 frames per second. Now, it is playable, but I would class this as only just playable. You see when you zoom in, there's a little bit of a stutter, and just moving around, you do get quite a bit of lag there. But lighter titles like Shadow Fight 3, this does run with fluid playable frame rates, much smoother. It's just those really demanding titles. And this is a sample of the front-facing camera and the audio. So it's just mono. There's just that little mic on the bottom. It looks like a little tiny little slot. It's just the gap there. And this quality is, it's all right. It's not definitely going to win any awards, and your mobile phone will probably be 10 times better than this. But I feel it's usable for Skype and your Google voice chat apps and things like that, like Duo. That is all going to work with this, and that's the main thing. And a very quick sample of video on the rear. So your mobile phone will do a much better job than this. It's not amazing quality, you can see, but at least we can record video. So looking at battery life, I can give you quite a good estimate here. So gaming, it's going to last for about 4 to 5 hours. Lighter tasks like just internet, and this is all on wireless, mind you. If you're on data, then it will burn through the battery a little bit quicker. You're looking about, I would say, a maximum of 6 hours, perhaps 7 if you really tone down that brightness. So the battery life is not amazing. It's not like the 10 hours that I can get out of my Mi Pad 4. Definitely not. Charge times also aren't great. You're looking at almost 3.5 hours to fully charge this tablet. So overall, I feel, taking into consideration the price of this, that it has been selling for $139 US, it's now $145, that you are getting a lot. You have a fully laminated high resolution screen, which brightness is okay. Indoors, 250 lux. Outdoors, it's going to struggle a little there. I have tested it, and you can still make out what is on the screen on max brightness, but it isn't ideal. For GPS use, I would go with a brighter screen. So we do have that GPS module. We have LTE, 3.5mm headphone jack. Output is actually clean, and it is clear. There's no static, so that's another positive. Front-facing webcam's all right. The camera on there. The quality of audio, well, not amazing. Voice calls is where it does fall down. So I found the earpiece to be not amazing. It's quite flat. It does sound a little bit tinny. It tends to distort. And my end, the call quality from the microphones are not very good because there's no noise cancellation, it seems there. Same goes for speakerphone. I think the location of the mic and the speaker are just a little bit too close together, and they end up giving like an echo effect or interfering with each other. So it's not wonderful that. But at least we do have that option. So 4G strength, signal range, wireless speeds, all good. That all checks out completely there. One thing I do want to point out with my screen, I have 2 dead pixels, one here and another little tiny one up here. Very hard to make out, but they are there, and they just popped up after a few hours of use. So we have decent performance. Well, not really. At times, it lags. Where it really shows is gaming. So the Meli T880, with this resolution and scaling things up, even if it's just scaling, it's struggling. I feel that Chuwi should have probably gone with 4GB of RAM on this, and it would have been even better if one of these manufacturers, other than say Xiaomi or Lenovo, could use Qualcomm chipsets. It would be much better to see. For example, even if it's a dated Snapdragon 625, it would perform much better than it does here. So that's the real area of letdown, has to be the performance of it. It just tends to feel a little bit sluggish all the time, a little slow. Some of the animations. So other games like Shadow Fight 3, they run fine. It's playable frame rates. It's just those demanding games. So eventually when Fortnite is out, I see it being quite choppy and not being able to reach 30 frames per second. Definitely not with this hardware configuration here. So overall, as a package for the price paid, you are getting a lot. It's just if you expect to have really good gaming performance and amazing overall smooth, fluid UI experience, you will be disappointed with that. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I do hope to see you back in the channel with my up and coming videos. Bye for now.